Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Your Vibes Podcast. Everybody's got a vibe and a story to tell. Here's this one. I hope you enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Your Vibes Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for staying with us. You know, this will be the 20th official episode and quite a milestone. And I just was looking at the analytics, and I think we're at about 1,300 total downloads across all platforms on the episode. So really catching on, and we're getting some good feedback from people verbally, and I think this thing is making a pretty good impact on Dickson. I hope to keep it going that way. So without further ado, I've got Mr. Tom Costa here with Katie's Ice Cream, and with his entrepreneurial spirit and his big dreams for Dickson, and he's just an all-around good guy. So we'll get started with Tom kind of telling us where he came from, kind of how he got started in this journey, and we'll go from there. So, Tom, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Michael.
Good.
Hey, thank you for allowing me to be here.
Absolutely.
Talk with you a little bit. And walking in this morning, it kind of feels like you're walking in an NPR studio, except it's beautiful. You look out, and I'm always amazing about Dickson is to be so close to town. But you're here, you're in town, and you look at it's just beautiful, green, lush.
I love it.
Scenery. So
they're actually, it's lush and green now, but there's some talk about putting an apartment complex right there.
Oh,
I'm not lying, yeah. And which we were talking earlier about some developments going on, and that neighborhood is great, but there is a big void. They're not trying to stick something in the middle of a neighborhood. This is kind of in a mix of commercial, residential type area. So if you're going to stick apartments somewhere, I guess so long as it's kind of on this side, but who knows? Right. Who knows? They've been wanting to do that for years, and I know it's kind of been up and down for sale, and not sure somebody's bought it again, but that's been the talk for a while. So Dickson's blowing and going, as you well know.
This is a great setting, so happy to be here.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So wherever you want to get started, Tom. I mean, as far as I guess you came from California area, is that correct?
Yeah. It's where you get started. Well, I was born. It's
how the moment I was born, yeah.
But I think some things that tie into the attraction, because clearly I was born in California, and choosing Middle Tennessee, there's some thinking behind that, and particularly Dickson at this point. And it has to do with background and who I am. And I like the blue-collar hometown feeling of Dickson. My dad was a truck driver. We lived in a rental house. I was raised relatively poor. And, I don't want to make it sound like terrible, but we've lived in affluent areas, and we've lived in areas that are more like Dickson. And Dickson feels like home. So I think that's kind of the thinking behind being here, and then the understanding of the background. I mentioned Dad was a truck driver. I was a truck driver.
Wow.
Part of the Central California.
What were you driving? Did you own your own truck, or were you working for somebody? Or?
No, I started in a mechanic shop. As Dad being a truck driver and owner operator, you want your son to be a mechanic so he can work on your trucks. And so I did a little bit of that, and I ended up working for a diesel shop, and that required having your Class A's, and it was great because I drove all kinds of, old equipment, new equipment.
Cool.
And then somebody said, you could go make more money driving over the road. Mm-hmm. So, all within the state of California, not any interstate stuff, and drove, and ended up eventually with a union job, making great money as a young man. And then there was a layoff, and I thought, man, I'll never make that kind of money again. And I thought, well, I'll go back to school. And so this is late 80s, and went back to school, went to college. And I don't know, when I was in the truck, I'd look down and see salesmen, clean and driving off in company cars. I thought, that looks pretty cool. And took an aptitude test. The aptitude test that said I'd be good at sales and different things. So I took on a business degree, and that it's been compatible. I've enjoyed that. I got out of college and worked for Diversity, which was owned by Molson. They sold chemicals to restaurants.
Okay.
So that was my
first sales gig there.
First sales gig was cool. with restaurants, and hospitals and hotels and the hospitality industry. And it was really, it was great because those folks that are in those industries typically like people, and there's great interaction. So that led into a job with a juice distributorship.
Okay.
That gave me some experience doing starting up smoothie bars.
Wow.
And different types of anything that used juice, and also restaurants that wanted soft serve. And so all that experience kind of comes up later. But in the late 1990s, after being married to my wife a few years, the .com thing was really happening. So people I worked with in the food industry were being recruited to these .coms.
Okay.
And so I was an early adopter on as far as technology. I met my wife online in '97. There was a website, Christian Connection.
Oh, wow.
And so on the free trial, we hooked up. I was in the Central Valley and she was in San Francisco. And so, always it was very interesting. It was kind of especially being in the Bay Area in California with everything that was going on in technology. So, kind of go forward a couple years. We're married, living in the Bay Area, and I'm doing this food service job, and there's just all kinds of opportunities. I did some different .coms.
Okay.
And
what do you mean by that?
Well, there were sales position. There was a company, Homestead, where you could build a website you kind of use widgets.
Okay.
And they had a sales team that would sell, advertising opportunities. And that was all in the Bay Area.
Cool.
It was cool times. I remember like that particular workplace. It's what you see in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
You're much younger than me, so I think there was a movie out. I'm trying to think who was in that, but it's where they used primary colors. It had the names of the rooms were after Sesame Street.
Okay.
Characters and things. I mean, this was a young man whose parents, whose dad was an attorney, was off of Sand Hill Road, which is where all the venture capitalists are.
Okay.
And he started this company, and the meetings were on bean bags, and then there was foosball tables.
Everybody's wearing little hoodies. And,
it was all that.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of crazy. And I don't know how much of that's still going on.
I think quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if not more so now. I know that the way Google operates too. I mean, they've got just a wild environment over there. With they're really tapping into kind of the eccentric point of it as far as meditation and physical activity, and they obviously have the bean bags, and they've got quiet chairs, and they offer free food to everybody. You know what I mean? It's just that whole environment. When you got that much money, though, I mean, you can really put something together.
Well, they were trying to attract talent.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was going on is they were wanting you there 12, 14, 15 hours a day. So the food and having that kind of lifestyle element to the workplace was important. But from that, I ended up eventually with a .com that was, you can appreciate, an insurance.com.
How about that?
So it wasn't as over the top. It was really we're insurance, which is pretty conservative, pretty, and then the .com. So you had the developers and you had the creative people from the .com side, and then the insurance leadership, and that company was called Insweb, and I ran the marketing department for the online advertising after the .bomb. So they went IPO, got a lot of money. They did television ads, radio ads, all kind of, it was a big budget. And then after that capital dried up, they looked to reduce costs, moved to Sacramento. We moved to Sacramento. And then I managed the team that was strategic partnerships, which was effectively the marketing, consumer acquisition part for that company.
So were they like an insure-tech type company, just online insurance, or?
They were an aggregator. So their idea was to be marketing. So their clients were Progressive, Geico, right? And well, all the insurance companies that were playing online.
Sure.
And so we would source consumers, bring them to a shopping site. The value proposition was the consumer was free and fast, and they would fill out a single application and then receive multiple instant quotes on their insurance.
Okay.
And I think there's a number of people that are trying to do that.
Sure.
And then the big carriers have tried to do that themselves and put competitive quotes on their sites. We also operated an agency, so there was a lot of great analytics about what a consumer looking for insurance was doing before they came to the site, and then we could track that all the way through to a sold policy. And this was on personal lines.
Wow.
So,
It's
yeah,
just
the
the
exciting
early
world of
age
insurance,
of the
huh?
insurance can be rather boring, but if you're a numbers guy or into the analytics or how the customers operate, I mean, that's just a sweet spot for you guys. I mean, for an agent as well too, because data is more valuable than oil and energy right now, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So you can really hone in on a customer's appetite for things and how they operate, and I think that shows well with a lot of things that Google has going on and that they've come out with as far as whether it be scary or not, how much they actually know about you just by your searches and everything else that's tied into the Google web too, is sure.
And I know I'm being long-winded. I'll get back to kind of Dickson real quick. So I'm in Sacramento. We have our number 2 and number 3 children. So we've got Jack, our oldest.
Okay.
And then he's followed 17 months later by the twins.
Oh, wow.
So now here we are. I grew up in California, but I'm about 4 hours from where I grew up.
Okay.
In Sacramento. And my wife's from Ohio. And we get these little ones, and now you're really thinking about family and where you want to be. And so Ohio's cold. And we thought, well, okay, we'll go down to the Central Valley. And at that time, there was really a great business. It's on the gateway to Sequoia National Park. And in California, there's 2 great parks, Yosemite National Park and Sequoia National Park. And they receive like 1 million visitors a year.
Oh, wow.
And this was an ice cream and candy shop right at the gateway. And so while in negotiations to buy the business, we bought a house. And then as we got into the purchase of the ice cream and candy shop with these young children living on the river and up in the foothills, small town. I think there was only 3,500 people in Three Rivers at that time.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think there's much more today.
Yeah.
Water issues. The owner, great guy, but he had connections to the same law firm that Warren Buffett uses. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to get a good shake on a water agreement for this business, and you got to have water.
Yeah.
And so we pivoted and started an internet marketing business, and we did that out of the house, and did that for a while.
Any particular niche on the marketing, or
exactly insurance marketing?
Okay.
So unlike the IPO publicly traded company I work for, we actually made money, and we marketed insurance.
It's funny how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did that for a while. And then we discovered it's always been about family, right? So you'll see a pattern here when I talk about where we are and what we're doing. After mowing the lawn midday, when I was told in the central foothills of California that you wouldn't find snakes when it's 100 degrees, I moved a small pedal car that belonged to one of the kids, and there was a 10-button rattlesnake.
Oh, gosh.
Which, I don't know. I don't like snakes. I'm like, Indiana Jones. I hate snakes. So I got a 22, shot the snake, and thought, I think there's a better place to put these kids. So we'd been kind of going down the hill, and there's a nice natural boundary between the foothills and where the agricultural starts picking up.
Okay.
So, and the area we moved to is Exeter. So down at the bottom of the foothills, across the aqueduct, that's the natural boundary that snakes can't cross. And so in this flat, fertile valley, there's been citrus there for 100 years, and we bought a 26-acre citrus ranch.
Oh, cool.
And I don't want to sound like, we didn't make money in the .com. It's always been sticking our necks out, my wife and I. And this was a dilapidated, broken down, awful ranch. Nobody wanted to buy it. It'd been on the market for years. And so we thought, okay, well, I can figure out, how to farm oranges. I'll figure it out. Talk to my
No
uncle.
experience prior.
No, I'd never farmed.
I love it.
And but it's permanent plantings. And then you talk to your tax guy, and he says, "Listen, I want you to know those trees are depreciable assets. Mm-hmm. So you can straight line depreciate those over 10 years. I'm like, oh, that's okay. That sounds good. And so, so we went to remodeling this house, and we lived there, and it was great for the kids. And everything's always been humbling. You just kind of keep mucking away, and you're trying to do the right things for the kids. And that was home, growing trees. And then I had another business. And so you mentioned kind of looking at the LinkedIn. That was Sequoia Interactive was the internet marketing business, and then Costa Brothers Citrus Ranch was kind of a head nod to the name that is on the picture in Katie's Ice Cream. That big old ranch picture, and that was Costa Brothers Dairy Ranch. Oh. So we named the Citrus Ranch that.
Okay.
Which was just 26 acres. That's nothing. It's about what they call a gentleman's farm, but it was enough to kind of occupy my time running around irrigating citrus trees. And then I bought my uncle's business, which was a pest control business.
Okay.
I had dairy clients, and in California, in that part of California, you have 5,000 to 10,000 head dairies, number of cows.
Big operations.
Big operations. Yeah. And they need someone to come in and spray for flies. So I did that, listened to a lot of radio and podcasts.
Cool. And
I think all of that was a deepening in, from listening to conservative talk radio that's saying, this is what's going on in the state of affairs, to podcasts. And I listened to a lot of Dennis Miller back then. And eventually I started listening to religious podcasts, because my wife was like, man, you're just kind of worked up here about some of these cultural things. And I think there was a little bit of a religious reversion. Okay. So I listened to a lot of Catholic radio. Cool. 12 hours a day. And I think that was the thing to look around and go, wow, even though I was raised here and I've got this wonderful home, I could not see the opportunities for my kids. And I was like, I'm great, but what are they going to do? And California was already doing some crazy things in 2013. So we looked around and thought, okay, we need to find some place a little more compatible to raising our family. And that was Tennessee. It's drivable to my wife's family in Ohio. Okay. Her folks are living in Virginia. And it was just kind of a paper decision. Never been to Nashville. Wow. Never been to Tennessee. And we said, let's move. So I flew out here by myself in October of 2013. And it was crazy then. As far as, you're talking your podcast about real estate and inventory. Found a house, suitable. What do you think, hon? Just do it, buy it. We bought it. Hoping that our place in California would sell, because it's a citrus ranch. It's like there's not a lot of it's not like a house in town that cookie cutter thing. Who's going to buy this thing? And so we think it was preordained that we were supposed to sell it. We sold it 4 days in the market.
Oh, wow!
And here we go.
Lucky you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Good. I bet that's a huge weight lifted off, or it was at that time, lifted off your shoulders.
It made it easy.
Yeah,
it made it easy. And then, as we know, there's a difference in values and housing, and we went to the corner of Williamson County. We were doing my research for moving to California. We found a parish, St. Matthew. Yep. That's where I met your father.
Yep.
Great faith community, great folks. I particularly like doing some of the cooking with the guys there. And
fish fries and chicken and all that. Yeah.
I just remember the story Dad told about how he was bringing farmers together to communicate, and he would cook those chickens. And I tell you, I just blessed. I just love
cool
so many aspects of lifestyle, and it's kind of the Southern life.
Yep.
And it's a little bit of a step back in time. And so, when you talk about growth, I'm going off in tangents here a little bit, but when you talk about growth, I think that's the thing that saddens me, is the loss of culture. And when I say that, I mean family-oriented time, that the pace of life to sit down and talk with a neighbor, or, when that's lost, because now we've got commute times and things have gotten crazy. So coming from that, you don't want to see that happen, because where are you going to go?
Sure.
So we kind of I don't know, I say voted with our feet, but we left California, came here, bought in Williamson County, and I had a couple, just a duplex. It's like, okay, well, I got spooked about stock market back in 2007. I was listening to too much Glenn Beck.
That'll spook you a little bit.
He was talking about hyperinflation. And I thought, okay, we'll buy real estate. We'll put this little bit of retirement we've got in real estate. And so eventually it led to 2016, and the property here in Dickson coming on the market. And that was the property that John and Margaret Baker owned. And previously was Builder Supply and J&M Sporting Goods. And I was attracted to that for a couple of reasons. In Dickson, I'd met folks in the course of things that I've done. I just really liked
Met
and
folks
admired.
here?
From Dickson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved to Williamson County. And what were you doing when you moved straight here? What was your first giddy up?
I felt, and this is where, no filter. I hope I don't lose folks on this, but I felt so grateful for the reversion in faith as a result of listening to Catholic radio.
Okay.
That I wanted to give back and do something in that regard.
Okay.
So I pursued that for a while.
Okay.
And it's just my way of kind of living out the faith best I can. I ended up as a kind of a fundraiser with Aquinas College.
Okay.
And I did that for about a year. And I was really just like, there's no citrus trees here. So I'm not going to farm citrus. There's no big dairies. I guess I could go sell, be a sales guy. And what am I going to do? And it was prayerful. A man needs a vocation. I always have the vocation to be a father and a husband. But I got to be busier than that.
Sure.
So the people that I ran across are folks that through Aquinas College. And there's folks that live here in town.
Okay.
So
you made the connection to Dickson through Aquinas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, well, because I was like, I'm a Catholic guy.
Sure.
And I don't know. There's not very many around.
Right.
And okay, well that's not so scary. And so we look around Dickson, walk around downtown. It's a great downtown. Mm-hmm. There's people out walking around, coming from places where big box stores have just killed downtowns. Mm-hmm. Like the town I came from, it was surviving, but there was too much competition for it to ever really thrive. And so to see a thriving downtown was great.
With big box stores like the Walmarts and the Krogers and stuff, and it's still thriving. So you just fell in love. You came to Dickson and fell in love.
I did. You do your research. You look, you feel the vibe, mm-hmm. and then you start looking. You go, I can't believe this is a 15,000 person town. I mean, you look at all the amenities. Mm-hmm. There's Buffalo Wild Wings, and there's all the chains, and there's all the independents, and I'm like, this is. It feels like 50 to 100,000 person town, mm-hmm. and then you start understanding. Well, this services a greater area, and then I read things like at the time the stats quoted that the Kroger here in Middle Tennessee is the largest has the highest dollar per square foot for its size mm-hmm. in this part of the world, and the same thing with the Walmart. I was like, well, this is just a really vibrant, great place to do business. So purchased that as just a property. It was attractive because it had the rental units, mm-hmm. so for kind of passive income to take care of the property taxes, and it could just sit over here. And there was a lady that managed it, and it just seemed easy and smart. And maybe someday we'll do something to Dickson. And then that someday came. Again, it was kind of. I guess I tell folks it was this itch that I never scratched from way back in 2004.
Okay.
That ice cream and candy shop in California. I just always
reemerged.
Yeah, I like the people that like food. Mm-hmm. Everybody likes food,
absolutely.
And drink, and so it's a fun business. And so you start thinking about it. If you're gonna design as much as you can control or create, I don't want to compete against Amazon, right? And insurance is great. I have a lot of insurance. I recommend people get a lot of insurance. But I want to do something a little more hands-on, a little more arson. And so it eventually morphed into this idea of having an ice cream shop.
Okay.
So
before it was, so you bought it, and it was the downtown mini storage. And then I remember, I mean, I drive by there, that location every day, and still do. And y'all went in and tore a bunch of stuff out, and y'all did a lot of work before it was even Katie's to do. Was it an antique place, or what kind of was that when you first bought it? What was your first step into?
It was, yeah, we got in there. We're just going to clean it up. I was going to sell it.
Okay.
I just I don't know. I can't see this, and I don't know. So we just started cleaning it up. And then I was approached by some folks that were renting on Main Street, and then they leased it for a while. And then we was like, let's just sell this thing, put it back on the market. So I put that thing on the market a couple times, kind of saving me from probably what I've roped myself into now is this business, which I enjoy very much, but I knew it would be all consuming. And so when a guy kind of half-heartedly says, Lord, I need a vocation, give me something to do, but meanwhile I'm really enjoying my leisure time, I knew what was going to happen. So it was the antique store, and then we developed into the ice cream shop.
And did a fantastic job. So what was I guess where did the name Katie's come from?
That was, I thought, and I found some records looking around that there had been registered in Nashville, like a Dickson ice cream. And I could never get anything back from the turn of the century, like 1910. There must have been someone in Dickson County doing something with ice cream. And so originally it was going to be Dickson Ice Cream and Candy Company.
Okay. And
we kicked that around for a while. And I think after saying it and thinking about answering the phone, what a mouthful that was.
Yeah.
And having to take a breath after doing all that, we knew we had to shorten it down. So, family's an important part of our story and everybody's story. I don't know, it's just not mine. But my great-grandmother, who I never knew, her name was Isabel. And so I thought that Izzy's would be a great name. And there's some attorneys that have that ice cream shop named Izzy's. I thought, well, I don't need to take on that fight. And so we talked as a family, and the youngest, so I've got 3 boys. There's Jack, Max, and Adam. And then the youngest is Katie. And we said, what do you guys think about naming it after your sister? And that was a tough pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the little sister.
Sure.
And so eventually that was, everybody was
How did she
board.
take to it? Did she...
Well, she's great. I hope in the end that this doesn't, too much spotlight, too much attention for a young child is probably not a great thing. So we hope that never happens.
Sure.
But she's done real well with it.
That's awesome. And I love how you're coming at it from a family standpoint too. There's too many, in my mind, that, like you were saying, we're bogged down with long work hours and commutes and hustle and grind to get as much income coming in as possible. And I think as an entrepreneur, somebody that's driven to succeed, they can sometimes lose perspective of family. I know I've been caught with my pants down a couple times doing that, and I check up and my wife's like, where the hell you been? What, you're working way too much, and you're missing these things in the moment. In my mind, I was like, well, I haven't missed a soccer game. I'm making those, but it's just the little moments, and as driven as you are to keep the family all involved, which I guess your 3 boys, they work there as well too, right?
Yeah, it's tough not to keep. Katie wants to work there, so
How old
sometimes
is
she'll
she?
come in. She's 11.
Okay,
so she'll come work the register and
cool.
Do things she likes to do. She's a good ambassador for the business.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you're in the family business, obviously keeping it in the family. What I am as well. So my in-laws own the agency, and my wife does personal lines here. So I do feel that, and there's obviously a balance that's got to be put into place as far as home life and work life as well too. So I'd kind of like to dive in, I guess, to the start of that. So how what you did over there, nothing short of kind of blew my mind as far as how well put together, and obviously how much money you put into making that location vibrant, a welcoming environment for people. It's open area, and then you've got the playground in the back too. That's was done well with the turf grass back there, and the nice safe playground and cameras and fencing and it's become a real staple downtown. So what did that process look like? I'm always interested in obviously nothing manifests really without starting in your mind. And this was obviously the design that you worked very hard on and spent some time, really putting some puzzle pieces together. So what were those kind of conversations like between you and the family as far as, what you decided to get out of whatever it was before the antique place and the mini storage, and you're like, all right, we're going to relive this nostalgia of when we were back in California and let's make this ice cream thing work. What did that development look like in your head, and why did you go that direction with it?
Yeah, there was a lot of family conversations to the point where, like, Dad, just stop talking about ice cream in the ice cream shop. They were very fatigued before it ever came to fruition. And I know that, so this thing is like, I'm guarded in, and I'm less guarded than I would be if I was in a setting in California. I'll just put that this way. Let me just say, when we came here, we turned on the news, and it was in December. And this is refreshing for a person that is kind of where we're at in the faith now. You turn on the television and the newscast, the weather reporter goes, "Hey folks, on your way to church this morning, I want you to know it's going to be a little icy out there. Be careful." And we looked at each other like, that guy just said church on TV, and he's a newscaster. And so there's the faith is out a little bit more forward here. And so I say that where I know there's folks that are just like eye roll. Oh my gosh, And I used to, like, there's folks, I feel bad now. I was like, really, you're gonna pray for that to happen?
Sure.
Good with that. But I truly, I put a lot of time into it. And no, this is not like, God said, here's how you do this, Tom. But I just, something else I don't know. There was things that happened in the coming together of that business that I can't explain.
That's beautiful.
Well, yeah, and it's just, it's easy to like go, oh, whatever, nut job. But it did. And so, and I just got to kind of keep that in mind sometimes, because sometimes it's really hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's really, really hard. And, but it's rewarding at the same time. I've told folks, it's the closest thing I'll probably ever come to doing as a ministry. I'm not a person that can go out and really talk well about the faith or even be a good example. I'm just a hot mess of a human being. But I in some small way, I hope, we're a good example of family life and we can do what we do. But I'm so grateful for some of the folks that have inputted on the development of the business. I took a ice cream making and running a business class.
Wow. So, where was that?
Up in St. Louis.
Okay.
There's a gentleman, I got great respect for him, Steve Christensen. There's a number of different places you can go to learn about the craft of making ice cream. And
never would have thought that.
Oh, yeah. The more famous one is at Penn State.
Okay.
They've been going on for over 100 years, and last I checked, the wait time was about 2 years to get in. Wow. And that's from everyone that's going to run a big plant, manufacturing plant, to an entrepreneur looking up to do what we did, an open ice cream shop. But kind of back to local influences, there was a gentleman that did some excavation work for us, and I'd talk with him, and he just became one of those guys you could talk to, and you kind of you're on the same page in terms of values. And he says, if you open up on Sunday, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard to ever like close that door. And I really, the ice cream consultant, the guy with the Scoop School, I asked about it. I said, is there anybody that's doing, because you look for someone else that's done this. And what I'm speaking about is not open the shop on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I said, is there anybody that's doing kind of a Chick-fil-A, of ice cream where they close on Sunday? And he's like, and he's in Australia. He's like, no, mate, that's going to be a big day. And I was like, and my wife's like, I really just, if there's any way we can not be open on Sunday, it'd be great. And so this good friend, he said, how do you, I don't know. He says, we go out sometimes. He says, I'm always half-hearted and about, raising my glass up for service. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, so it was a struggle. That was a hard decision. If you look at it as a ministry, should I be there on Sunday? Should I be closed?
Sure.
And so, that came and it just fits in downtown.
Absolutely.
That's just more, I don't know, confirmation that that's the right business in the right spot.
So, I'd like to get into the ice cream making class a little bit too, because obviously the product that you serve is phenomenal. Nothing short of that as far as the quality on everything goes, and as well as the customer service too. You've got those boys whipped into shape. I tell you what, man, they greeted with a smile, nothing but helpful. Always, it's like, and I'm sure you may have fed them a script of sorts, as far as. Not that it sounds like that, but it's structured as so, as far as offering water with the ice cream, and here's the utensils, and here's this, here's that, and it seems like there's a lot of attention to detail when serving every time I go in there. And anyway, so you've got this business model put together, and you've learned how to make ice cream. So I guess, what did you bring home, and then kind of how did you implement that into the business as far as, what flavors you were going to do, or, as far as inventory control, because obviously this is kind of a new venture out for you in the quote unquote restaurant retail space of sorts, and a lot that goes into it. So, you get done with the ice cream making. How long was that, by the way, the class that you were doing?
Oh, the in-class part was, I think it was a 2 or 3 week course.
Okay. And what did that involve? I mean, did you have to go to...
You get to make ice cream.
That's awesome.
So it's high level.
Okay.
So you're some folks that are kind of dipping their foot in. There's other people that spent 2 years of doing research and reading, and then this is kind of their second to final step.
Okay.
And like I said, it's a hands-on. It's probably, and it's enough of an investment where you don't want to go waste a couple grand.
Sure.
And then on top of that, hotel rooms and not do it. So those folks are really, they're going to do it. And the guy's great. He ran a chain in Australia, and then he's currently the president of the National Ice Cream Retailers Association.
Wow.
So he's just a good guy.
Yeah.
But all those pieces. I think the key, and like any business owner would probably recognize this, is empathy. Mm. You think about what you want. How do you want to be treated? Do you want to be, you want to walk into a restaurant where the kids are on the phone, or the servers are on the phone, or they're talking behind the counter, and are they talking about me, or what's going on? I'm not important to your business. So you walk in, and I think it goes back to those blue collar roots. Money was scarce. As growing up as a kid, man, we didn't go out to restaurants. We just didn't, and so it was always a treat. And I think about how hard folks have to work for money, and then to go out and waste it on a bad experience. That's, I don't want to be party to that. So, it's just kind of a common sense thing. Just think about that other person. So, when you walk in, hey folks, how you doing? I don't know what happened in their day. Hopefully this is a bright part of their day. Mm-hmm. I tell these young folks that are there, you have a great opportunity here to be the best part of maybe that person's day. Mm-hmm. Maybe they had a rotten day. Come on in. It's cool. Mm-hmm. And let's get you some free samples. Maybe try something different, and try to have a little fun. And I don't know. I think that's kind of the magic of it. And it's not there's no secret sauce. Making the ice cream, we took all the time to make sure our process and our ingredients and everything that we put into it is something that's as good as you're going to find anywhere, and safe and wholesome, and that's kind of what we're trying to be about.
Cool. Where do you source your ingredients from?
Well, there's a number of different dairy suppliers that we're lucky here locally that'll deliver right to our doorstep. And then there's some things that we do that are not real common. There's not a lot of independent shops that are making their own no sugar added ice creams, and then are dairy free. So I have to bring that product out of state.
Wow.
So, but that's just that was a kind of a commitment to the community early on, that we were going to try to have something for everybody in terms of product. And I realized people can't consume dairy, even though I'm coming from the part of California, #1 dairy county. People can't consume dairy, so let's have a really fine, non-dairy ice cream. And same way with the no sugar added. There's folks that want to reduce the amount of sugar that they intake. Well, let's figure out how to do that.
So what's that, I guess, additive, or what do you subtract from the no sugar ice cream? Because obviously that's a huge part in just the ice cream industry. But what's your secret there? Are you allowed to tell me?
Oh yeah, I told you I have no filter. I'm waiting for the point that I have to put the filter on. But there are no sugar. There's sugar-free chocolates, and there's sugar-free caramels and sugar-free fudges.
Okay. So
we use those as our additives to the mix that we bring from out of state. So there's a no sugar added custard, and that's what we use for the base on those products.
Okay.
But it takes time and effort, and if you want to see it through, you just kind of go figure it out. And sometimes it's also expensive. If you're putting refrigerated or frozen product on a truck and bring it over several states, you have to go, okay, I'm doing this for this group of consumers. I hope this pans out. And then I really don't want to have different pricing tiers. I don't want that person that can't eat dairy to come in and have to pay a surcharge on non-dairy. So just hope it all works out. My thinking is that non-dairy consumer that likes that product will bring in a couple friends
that are also non-dairy, and it kind of grows from there, maybe,
or dairy free.
Sure.
And it's just the place to go for ice cream.
Okay. So do you have like a Willy Wonka type machine back there that you're just adding the ingredients into? What is that? Well, I'm trying to think in my head of, like, you've got all these different ingredients. Obviously in my mind, business model within itself is great, but the wheels and cogs and kind of I guess how the sausage or how the ice cream is made. What goes into that?
Sure. Yeah. I love the reference to Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
One of our first employees, we had all the paper up, and you were driving by the place, and I love that movie. And it probably influences, a grown man wanting to get into ice cream, because I thought that was a great movie. The idea, right? They're making people happy and everybody excited, and the golden ticket, So, and one of these early first employees said, wow, it was like Willy Wonka. We didn't know what was going on in there. And you had the paper and the reveal, and it was so cool to kind of watch. But so I've taken a number of folks, when the timing's right, when we're not in production, I've invited people back into the kitchen where we make the ice cream. So, and it's a pretty standard spiel that I give on how we make it, and I'll share it here for your listeners.
Totally.
But I start with the building. The building's built in 1932.
Okay.
It's got its history. But that was white boxed. Everything was taken out of that. And in the kitchen area, it's covered in all washable surfaces. So a material called FRP, which is very washable. The place can be just washed from top to bottom and cleaned and sanitized. And that's really critical in the production of ice cream. We've got a competitor in Nashville. It's Ginny's Ice Cream. They no longer make their own ice cream. And we take great pride in that we make a great product right here in Dickson. They had a couple of outbreaks of listeria, the contaminated product. People got sick. And so we take health, sanitary conditions very seriously. I consume the product. People I love and work and live next to consume the product. So it's really important. So that explains kind of all brand new equipment. Everything in there is NSF, which is National Sanitary Foundation, which means it has to be washable and clean. And so we built it to the top standards. So you walk in and you're gonna, we explain that to you. Then the heart of the machine, and then you see the ingredients, the quality ingredients and things that we make when we do these little tours or get back in the kitchen for a peek. But the heart of the business is a machine. It's called an Emery Thompson. That's the manufacturer, and we make it on that machine. It's called a batch freezer. So everything we make is made on that machine, and it's the same machine that Haagen-Dazs started with, Ben and Jerry started with, and this man invented this 100 years ago.
Wow.
And his grandson runs it today, and he's a great guy. It's great people to do business.
Awesome.
Family operation. You can call up Steve.
Wow.
And say, Steve, not that I've ever had a problem with the equipment.
Sure.
So great equipment. But the way it works is you put your ingredients into the hopper, and this machine has big compressors, got a big cylinder. So think about making ice cream at home. You've got your dasher in there, and it mixes it up. And about 10 minutes later, it comes out at 22 degrees. Your ice cream looks like soft serve. And then it goes into a process where we freeze it down solid. And that's the critical part of, I think, making quality ice cream, and the sciences behind it as well. So when I'm tapping here on the table, every physical thing is in motion, even a solid surface.
Absolutely.
So in ice cream, the water molecules are in motion. And what we're trying to do, and what happens if you've made ice cream at home, it's almost unavoidable to have that ice crunch. Mostly your homemade ice creams are going to be a little crunchy. And what we do is we churn that, and then we freeze it before those little water molecules can come together and form an ice crystal. And so that's, if at home you could get it frozen under -10 very quickly, you could make good creamy ice cream. And that's the kind of the secret, right?
So it's that real quick transfer from soft to getting it to what degrees was it?
-10.
-10.
If you get it under -10, like I said, where everything's in motion, it slows that down.
Okay.
So if we're able to store ice cream at -20, like we do, so it comes out of the machine. We'll go back to the process. We have the batch freezer. We put all the ingredients in. We extract that out after about 10 minutes. And it's at -22, it goes into a blast freezer. So this is a cabinet that holds 35 tubs of ice cream, about 100 gallons of ice cream. And then up on top of the roof of Katie's, there's condensers, compressors, extracting all the heat out of that product. So that 12 hours later, the core temperature of that ice cream is -20.
Wow.
Now I've kept that ice cream creamy. I put that into a holding freezer where we can hold well over 1,000 gallons of ice cream. And then it holds it in that state. Now, as soon as that ice cream gets warmer than -10, it's back in motion. And that's where the clock starts ticking on its life cycle, or its life, when it's going to start being icy. And so that gives us a lot of flexibility to have 32 flavors, right? We've got flavors that could be out there for a period of time and not get icy. And it helps us through the winter months and always having high quality product. And it gives us a production ability where we could, if we wanted, we could supply 4 or 5 other stores, the equivalent of Katie's size.
Wow.
So
what's the point behind having that much inventory? I mean, are you going through it that fast, or I mean, is it? I guess it stays that long. I mean, you can keep it for a while, right?
We still have a fair amount of ice cream there.
Okay. So you're churning that inventory, obviously. Inventory in a retail business inventory management is obviously extremely important. So you're pumping through quite a bit.
Yeah, we sell a lot of ice cream.
That is awesome. We sell a lot of ice cream, obviously. So what's the percentage breakup between your brick and mortar and the what do you call it? An ice cream truck? Do you call it a food truck? What do you? Well, is there a special name for it?
We named it the Scoop Wagon because it's a trailer, and it's kind of cute. It's kind of a retro looking thing, and it's got the curves of an Airstream, and frankly, it's not gotten a lot of use. We bought that before we opened the shop and had that made, and I love it. I think it's cooler than heck. But through COVID and there's been some things that we could have done, but part of the philosophy of the business is it's women and children and young people in there. I've got, I don't know, self-appointed. I'm there to make sure they're safe and everything goes good. Not that there's bad stuff always happening, but there's stuff that happens.
Sure.
And so I can't be in two places at one. And the environment last year, wasn't really friendly enough to go out, to send my boys out with that trailer and do that. I guess I could hire an adult or somebody to go run that.
Sure.
Just haven't done that.
So
it's really the split. Back to your question, 100% out of the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
We do very little with the trailer.
Cool.
We're looking to change that because now it's changed.
Absolutely.
And my sons seem to have an appetite to go run that. So we've had a couple corporate events from the beginning, and we may add more of those that are compatible with the hours that we want to operate and the clientele that I want to put young people in, or the settings that I want to put young people.
That fits in your box of kind of how you see the business operating as a whole.
If I can't be there, I don't want to have some bad things happen in situations with teenagers out of the location that might not be conducive to where teenagers ought to be.
Sure. Understand completely. And the wild world of kids these days and internet influence and conversations and everything as well too. I think it's extremely important that as a business owner you keep your finger on the pulse of things and make sure things kind of stay in line. So I guess if you don't mind, we'll kind of breeze over it. And I just want you to kind of get your message out on some things as far as there's been some focal points of things going on in that area and some things being said and online and whatever it may be, but I've known you for a while. My dad obviously talks highly of you as a person, and the St. Matthews community as well too is they breed good people, good men. And from hearing your backstory and how hard you've worked and a lot of things you've had your finger on, I think people have a better understanding as to where you come from. And in my opinion, a lot of stuff that I'm seeing is coming from people who don't own businesses. They don't understand what goes on behind the scenes in order to keep the machine running well, and how little things here and there can throw some things off and they need to be put back in line pretty quick. So, I guess as the owner of Katie's and whatever's, I try not to keep up with drama very much at all, but, what's your goal, I guess, kind of behind the best way I can describe it as far as protecting the brand, and your kind of corner there and, just why Tom does the things he does in order to kind of keep things moving in the direction that he'd like them to keep moving, as well as we've already hit on the great customer service. And I think anybody that goes in there sees that as well as the great product as well too. But being a business owner, you're obviously going to run up against some, there's no such thing as perfect in my mind. And I kind of welcome the chaos in my life as well too. I get a bit controversial on some things that people don't necessarily agree with me, but it's my truth, and I let people do what they want to do if they let me kind of do what I want to do, kind of thing. So what's Tom's message as far as kind of his overall thoughts on and then we can kind of phase off into kind of what's next and where Dickson is going. But I'd really like to kind of give you a platform on why you operate the way you operate and you as a business owner.
That's
is it a loaded question?
It could be dangerous territory, but let's see if I can do it without kind of crashing and burning. We talked a little bit about getting into town, and we've got the white paper out coming soon, construction people working there. And I think it caught me off guard. I really didn't expect this, but we had an anonymous review on Google that was, I guess the word salacious. it was it was kind of like the old, how often do you beat your wife? It accused me of beating my wife and drug use. I think it insinuated drug use. And it was horrific. I mean, it was horrific for a guy that only knows a couple people in town, that's starting an ice cream shop, that's tread fairly lightly. I was taken aback by that. I was like, now who would spew such hate and lies before you even open your doors? And so there's that. I'll just say that element.
It's a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, it was tough, and so that element has never gone away. That element is here, and for whatever reason, that we're in the crosshairs, and I can never really understand why. Because I kind of stay in my own lane. And now, if you ask me an opinion about something, I feel like this is a great country and it's built on ideas and people sharing opinions and dialogue. And I'm a big fan of sharing ideas and dialogue. And I'm not so hard set in my thinking to be swayed. So to sit down with someone and say, well, have you thought about this? That's great. I think that's missing in society as a whole. So now it gets into running a business and brand. What do you do to protect the brand? I would be better served as a business person to not ever dive into any of these controversies. But if you feel that the business is the closest thing you're going to get to ministry, or it's kind of your vocation and how you raise your family, and you feel like you're trying to do something for community, that might push your thinking into maybe battling some of this nastiness. Now, maybe I should have took some media training, or I have friends that say, just stop, don't engage. You will never change the narrative. Those folks can't be swayed. Here's the characteristics, here's the personality types that are on social media. They're just looking to gin up a fight, and that's how they get their adrenaline rush. And you just can't, you won't prevail. It's not about winning, but you're just even not going to get your side out. And I just have a tough time with that one. That's a tough one to just take it. And so sometimes I advise not to. I go out and try to spar with those folks that want to,
spar with you,
hurt the business. Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. And so, and I don't want to bring negative attention. There's things that have happened. And I just want it to end. I want folks to be aware. Some of the motivation is not to go humiliate someone, but just be good people, right? If you're going to defecate in the public parking lot downtown, I'm not going to show your face, but I would. It'd be okay if the town knew there's cameras, and there's a guy that could identify you and embarrass you for defecating
in a parking lot
downtown. So I posted it on our public our ice cream Facebook page that someone defecated in Katie's ice cream, and news reporters called, and I said, no, let's not make a big deal about this. So you're kind of torn. What does the guy do? You could say nothing, or you could make a big deal about it and hurt the community, or you could hopefully do something that would curb someone from doing that.
Sure.
So that's some of the motivation.
You can't have somebody running around pooping in everybody's parking lot. If that happened to anybody else too, I'd hope that they would do the same thing, and I think by getting just close enough to where that guy knew that you were calling him out, but nobody ever really knew who it was, but maybe it scared him enough not to come back. Obviously, judging people in that standpoint, you don't, like you said, you don't know what kind of day somebody's had, or you don't know who that person is or what their life has been like. So, but obviously, to you and I, we're not the ones to go out and poop in parking lots. So that's kind of, it gives you a view of, well, that's obviously he's in a bad spot, but don't do it again kind of thing, So
if folks will look, and I know it's going to be hard for some people that just don't like me. I mean, I've come to grips with that. But if you look and say, on an instant, is he trying to protect the person that's accusing him? Then you'll probably get it a little bit better. So if there's a young person that's done something, that young person has their future ahead of him. The gentleman that pooped in the parking lot has a future ahead of him. He's got a family, and right? I can only assume. And I don't want to harm anybody. I don't want to harm anyone with ice cream. I don't want to harm anyone's reputation. Now, and that's where it gets difficult. When they're coming at you to hurt you and your business, then it's I put some elbows out, and that's where I have a real tough time. But I also, when those things are going on, I have great empathy for a young person that makes a mistake, or the things that go on. So, do I always? And with all humility, I am just an average Joe, and I'm trying to do the best I can to run a nice little honest ice cream shop, and maybe I muck it up in social media, and I probably should hire somebody just to handle it for me, frankly. But I don't know. Protecting the brand, I think folks that come in and experience us, maybe it's not always perfect. Maybe early on you didn't like some things we were doing. But goodness, we're trying real hard, and I think we do a pretty good job, and we're just going to keep at it.
Good, yeah, and that shows. Whatever you may say and whatever somebody else may say, there's obviously a lot of passion behind both parties, and you can't please everybody. I've caught in flack for a lot of things that I've done. One thing that I've kind of tried to teach myself to do, because I think this egocentric type mindset sometimes can take us over, is just embracing that person or that situation, and it's seemingly helped, but it doesn't. Sometimes it may not slow the wildfire down. I've just stood in the middle of it, kind of thing. Like, okay. If it, not to say let it burn, but we'll keep spraying water on it and keep this thing manageable. But this, from what I had seen, the people kind of coming at you are not, to me, necessarily they're not in the best position either. I don't think it's a good representation of this town. I think that any and all controversy, if it gets on social media, it gets blown way out of proportion, and should those two people maybe come together over a bowl of ice cream or a beer and personally and just really have a nice chat, I think that a lot of things could get settled off the books and save a lot of face for what's going on, because I think that our downtown, I can't pick one business owner that's downtown that shouldn't be. I think that the direction that it's going, the diversity of businesses, the opportunity for people to truly spend a full day there. When you came here, you were like, people are walking around, the big box stores hasn't shut everything down. So that is a huge, huge, huge plus, as you well know, for any downtown, is that if they can operate a full north to south Main Street and beyond kind of independently owned and operated restaurants, retail stores, ice cream places, barbecue places, breweries, that's just, there's so much drive behind those business owners to keep that face of downtown like that. And again, people who seem to complain are not the ones that are the business owners, or they don't own their own business. There's so much that a lot of people don't even think about. I mean, because half the stuff that's online about you, that's probably a minor bit of all the crap that goes on in your day, as far as like stuff maybe breaking or issues within the business, or things you've got to sort out with your family. It's just, that's why I try so hard not to judge people, because like you said, I mean, in your welcoming environments the same way. It's just, you never know what kind of day somebody's had, and your boys and daughter do, you as well, do a fantastic job of just greeting people with a smile, and you can really see that it's genuine. It's not this fake robotic thing of like, here's what we're supposed to do. It's a smile that's obviously driven by good leadership, but you can tell they want to be there. They care about the product. They know a lot about the product. I'm sure they may play a part in making it as well too, and cleaning up. I spent a lot of my youthful years working cleaning stuff up. Like I worked for a kid's bouncy house place, and I had to clean up after the parties. I had to wipe down all the bouncy stuff. I had to clean the bathrooms, and I worked for Slush Puppy in college. I had to clean up, the machines and deliver them. And it's just, it's that part of getting your hands dirty from start to finish that really gives you the respect, of yourself and the people that work for you, that this is ours, this is our baby, and we're trying to protect it, and we're doing the best that we can. It's like having kids. I've got two. You don't really screw the first one up, but you really put them through the ringer with how you are as a parent. Then the second one comes along, and you maybe do a little bit better there, and then the third or however many more come along, and you just then you get way down the road, and you're like, oh, good Lord, there's too many of them now. Just do whatever you want to do, But there's a balance. But there's this the whole growth aspect of it is that you came into Dickson not knowing anybody, with a dream of putting something really special that was missing in Dickson, and in my opinion have done a lovely job of that. And I just keep on chugging, So now that we're kind of here on that point, there may or may not be something that you've got in mind for the future. But what is Tom and his family and his faith is driving him? Is there an extension to what you have, or anything that you feel comfortable telling or want to, as far as what does Tom maybe have in mind for any other ventures in Dickson or growth for what he's got, or in that direction?
I'm open. I don't think I could say I've got a 10-year plan. If it complements that balance of life that we all seek, sure. I'm still relatively young man, I think, and
Sure.
I've got years ahead of me. And if there are folks that whether it's a partnership or venture, or we'll look at those. Cool. So right now it's kind of the most natural thing is growing the brick and mortar, just making sure that's operating correctly. And it's not just us. We've got great young folks that work there. And being with that young staff and making sure it's what the community needs, and that they're also beyond the paycheck.
Sure. That
they're in an environment that their parents and them enjoy. So I don't know, that takes a lot. And I think about scaling that up, and I'm not quite sure if we want to tackle that right now.
Well, you've taken that one step with the vending machine. That blew my mind. How's that going? Is that going pretty well?
Great.
That is awesome.
It's been great. I know that when we did the Dickson Herald article, we hinted at doing that. We said we were going to do that, and it wasn't too long that after operating, we just saw some things on the patio. It was just too far out of sight. We had a Coke machine back there, and there was just. And I hate to have this conversation, have so many negative things, but that led us to delaying the vending machine, and the environment was right, and it's just a better placement. So it just all kind of worked out where it should be. But on not being so negative, I want to say that doing business in Dickson, the vast majority of people, and it's because they're good people, and they're respectful of what's been put here. As far as cleaning up, our restrooms are always clean.
Absolutely.
It's not because I have to send somebody in there, and I am sending somebody in there 15 minutes. It's just because we've got good folk. You know what I mean? They help us operate a good business. They help us operate a business that doesn't require a whole lot of extra labor and going and taking care of messes and things that are tore up. So I'm grateful for all the good folks. And so I hope I haven't spent too much time saying, well, this happened. I couldn't put the vending machine in the back. It's all fine. It's all worked out perfectly. And, going back to my friend saying, you can't be open on Sunday. And then a lot of things are closed on Monday. So on Monday, I'm in there cleaning. And there's so many times that, a young mom and her child come to the door and it's locked. And so the empathy for that situation, because that stinks, right? That's not good. Little Susie was ready for ice cream, and this dumb ice cream shop is closed. And so having that vending machine solves that.
That's awesome.
It's not all about me. It's I want that customer to have a good experience. And what's been surprising is the amount of people that will come out at 1 a.m. There's a Sunday and Monday crowd that was expected, but the late night folks,
Wow.
We've got so many people who work in night shifts and different things. So, yeah.
So you're getting little notifications on your camera, and is somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning, I guess, just gotten off their shift and wants some ice cream?
Yeah.
And wow, I never would have thought about that. I knew that kind of the buzzer bar kind of deal, or the days that you were closed, obviously would capitalize. And y'all started kind of right off the bat with some late hours as well too, going into 9 or 10 o'clock at night kind of thing, weren't you?
I think we're over. I think we've been blessed to be in Dickson County. 3 weeks ago we tried to dine off of Charlotte and Nashville, and it was just a different world.
Yeah.
And if you travel outside of Dickson, or even there's I don't know, it's just been blessed to be able to do business and to really have life as close to normal. I feel bad for family and friends in California, and it's been horrific.
People are pouring out of that state.
It's
that New York and a couple other places. They're just, you gotta empathize. It has to, again, back to the whole leadership aspect of it. The leadership of that state has been rather weak for a while, and if, for whatever reason that may be, it's seemingly gotten out of control. The scenes you see, with the tents for miles in L.A. and the drug problems and everything else too. It's just it's a sad sight to see such. In my mind, I've been to California several times, and it's probably the most beautiful state in all of America. I mean, you've got the mountains, you've got the valleys, you've got the beaches, you've got the plains, you've got the wineries, you've got the orchards, you've got everything, the deserts, and I mean, it's every single landscape that you could imagine all in one state. And to see that and turning into what it's turning into is a little sad. It may be in some spots. Obviously, the landscape is doing okay, except for the wildfires and everything. But you've settled here in Dickson and have opened up a lovely business, and I think that nothing but good things to come. So I guess final question to you before we kind of get into our fire round questions is Dickson within itself. Kind of what do you've seen it, you've been here for what, 5-6 years? I mean,
we've been in Middle Tennessee 7.
Okay.
And so we've been, living in Dickson a very short period of time.
Okay.
Just a little over a year. But, doing business and owning property for a little bit longer.
Yeah. So if you could, keep putting this puzzle piece, really kind of specifically in the downtown area or, wherever you may see fit, putting this puzzle piece of Dickson's growth together, mainly from a commercial standpoint. We've kind of touched on, before we started recording, kind of the residential side and the bottlenecks we're running into. But, if you could pick something out of the sky and plop it into Dickson, is there anything in particular that you would like to see come to Dickson to kind of help tie the pieces together?
I remember we talked about this at Furnace Brewing a long while ago. Now you've spent a little bit of time here. We've talked, and the listeners will go, okay, of course that fits for him. But I think, and it's irregardless of the denomination, but I think a private higher education religious school,
cool,
like a,
yep.
It doesn't have to be Catholic, but I think when you start to solve problems, you go, well, what's keeping this from bringing this, and where do you want to go as a community? So you don't want to grow too fast, and you want to grow in the right ways, and you want to have the amenities. And so you don't want to price. I want my kids to be able to pry a home here, and I like living in a more blue collar area. And so what would complement that best? And so, that's my kind of, I think that might accomplish it, but I have no idea. Frankly, it's outside of my depth.
I have pondered and I have asked, even Joey Hawley and a couple other, representatives of the school and residents as well too, if Dickson could sustain a privatized high school. And I'm not talking like an Insworth or an MBA, which would be lovely to have that quality of education here, but the price tags on those are $30,000 plus or minus a year. So the median income for Dickson is not going to be able to kind of qualify for that. But, me personally, whatever anybody might think, I'm not a huge fan of Common Core. I think that the fluidity of education, especially in children of those ages, is massive. Everybody learns a different way than somebody else, and they may take an interest in different topics, and to kind of force feed these children specific ways to do math, or here's what American history looks like from a very biased and approved, quote unquote, standpoint. Here's what the government wants you to know. All those things, while those students may be checking the boxes of, okay, I accomplished this class and this class, and now I can go to college, and that's not to say that there's not other classes out there that are great, like Dickson County High School's got Cougar Nation, which is kind of an audio visual type class where they learn to record and editing software and all, which is huge, especially in this day of tech and media. But I also think it puts children in a box that they sometimes themselves can't get out of. They're structured in a way to learn and to do things that they may not necessarily know how. And me personally, I send my kids to Catholic school in Nashville. Private school, pay a bit amount of money for them to go there, but the education and the system that they're in and how they operate is fantastic. So I think that it would be a great addition. It's just going to be, can people afford it, and is there enough people? You've got St. Patrick's down the way. That's pretty good, but something as a higher education, I think for a high school would be good. So cool. All right, we'll fire these off and get out of here. Again, thanks for taking the time to come out. I truly do appreciate it. I'm glad you got your word out and about Katie's and your life and where you came from. I think it's a fantastic story. So, all right, here we go. If you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would it be?
Hardworking, courageous, friendly.
That's perfect. What is some of the best advice that you've ever received?
I think from my dad, excuse me. Sorry about that. I hope that. From my father, who always said, whatever you decide to do, be really good at it. So you're going to be a police officer, be the best police officer you can be. You're going to be a plumber, be the best plumber you can be. Cool.
What would be the best would that be the best piece of advice you could give somebody else, or have you learned something else along the way?
No, that's a good one. I think to my kids, it's just have humility and be good. Just be good.
Be a good person.
Be a good person.
To yourself and to other people.
Yes.
What are you doing after this interview?
I'm going to go to work at Katie's, and I might have made a mess. I don't know if I turned the alarm off, and my son went in there, and so we love Dickson Police Department, and they've been super. And I just
is that what you were checking your phone
about? Yeah, I just thought I didn't turn the alarm off, and I hope everything's okay. So I apologize in this podcast, the Dickson Police Department, for the false alarm.
I've accidentally called 911 here before because the numbers on the keyboard are exact opposite of the numbers on your phone. So instead of 311, I dialed 911 and hung up immediately, which was a mistake, and they came to the office. So I know how you feel. Cool. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. One thing I would like to say is I hope everybody listening to this podcast, spread it around, and let's start anew here. I know there's been some crazy stuff going on, and I think that this town is a much better representative than kind of what we're seeing. So I think that if we could just start fresh from here, Tom is just a hardworking, faithful, family-driven man who's protecting the brand of his business and obviously provides one hell of a product. So let's keep this momentum going. Let's keep Dickson County growing. Let's keep the news about what's going on here positive, and that way we drive and collect a very quality atmosphere of people and businesses in Dickson, and let's keep the marketability of the county and the city within itself in a good light. That way we can keep moving forward, and we can grow to have neighbors that like us and we like them. So please like, share, and comment Your Vibes Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and yourvibespodcast.com. Check us out on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. That way you get a notification every time I upload a new episode. I'll be uploading this full episode and short clips sometime this weekend or early next week when I get it all put together. But thanks again for listening. Really appreciate you guys, and see you next time.